Good morning and welcome to our town at Common Coffee. This morning we're going to be talking to Shelly Aldean, Board of Supervisors, about different issues affecting the city. But right now we're going to take a short break for a word from our sponsor.
At Carson, Tahoe, each of our 1,100 professionals brings something special to this region.
My compassion.
My experience.
My skill. My knowledge.
My commitment.
My expertise.
My dedication.
But we all share one common goal.
Your health.
Carson, Tahoe Regional Healthcare. Here's to your health.
Welcome back, and we're here talking with Shelly Aldean from the Board of Supervisors. How's it going this morning?
Good, good. How are you?
All right. You guys had an awfully tough week last week.
It wasn't pleasant. It wasn't pleasant. No.
That was quite. Having a vote where you have to actually cut that much money out of the budget. It was like 7.9 million.
7.8. Originally, there was a $10 million deficit. As you probably know, we were able to apply $2 million out of the post-closure landfill account to the deficit. Okay. And then in addition to that, we reduced our ending fund balance to 5%. So the deficiency was at 7.8 million, which meant that we had to resort to the so-called alpha list, which is a cut list that was put together by all the departments in order to reduce our spending so that we can actually present a balanced budget to the Department of Taxation, which is a legal requirement. So unlike the federal government, we can't print money and we can't operate at a deficit. Well, I think that's a good thing, frankly. But anyway, so it was probably, I've been on the board for 7 years. It was one of the most difficult, if not the most difficult budget session we've had. Yeah,
because, the biggest, I guess, one of the most visible cuts of this is from the Sheriff's Department, of the people on the streets.
Sure.
Of 10 uniformed deputies, will be affected, and some other support staff. So.
Well, that is true. Well, hopefully only 10. At the end of the meeting, one of the things I stressed, and I know there's some resistance from some of the other departments at looking at a across-the-board 2% salary reduction. Because there's always the issue of whether or not a department is being run at maximum efficiency, and why should other employees take a salary cut if one department, is not operating in the manner that they feel is cost efficient. But I think that, as I mentioned at the board meeting, we have to take a holistic approach to this. We're one community, our departments work very closely with one another. They're all interrelated in terms of the services they provide and receive. And I would prefer, frankly, to see everybody belly up to the bar, take the 2% salary adjustment, and that would include, hopefully, all of our elected officials, although we can't compel them to do that, and reduce the number of layoffs. I mean, at the end of the day, the most important thing is to keep those officers on the street if we possibly can. But the sheriff's budget, obviously, law enforcement and the fire department, public safety in general, consumes about 45% of our general fund. So naturally, their cut is going to be pretty substantial. Yeah,
you can't really balance much budget with 45% out there.
No,
like
that's right. So. That's right. And hopefully, Kirk, what will happen? I think Ken is a good administrator. Hopefully he will reorganize the department to lessen the severity of the impact on employees. We may see a reduction in traffic enforcement. Obviously, response times are going to be affected, but we're not doing anything that other communities haven't been forced to do. Yeah,
and then there's also, the Deputies Association was talking about trying to, take a pay cut across the board in order to try to save some of those positions too.
Right.
Which is interesting because in the past unions sometimes haven't done that kind of stepping up, I guess.
Right. Well, no, and I was very impressed with that, and I think that, frankly, that's the best approach. But, whether we can compel the other bargaining units to comply with that request, it'll save a little over, $700,000 with a 2% salary reduction across the board. And I'm hopeful that, there's enough camaraderie within the various bargaining units and within the various, city departments that everybody will come to the table and will make that fairly minor sacrifice in order to preserve our law enforcement community.
Okay. We're going to take a break right now and for a word from our sponsor.
At
Company's Capital Ford Mazda Hyundai, we're overstocked. And now our select pre-owned vehicles are priced right and ready for a new home. Our factory certified vehicles are a great buy and feature exceptional warranties. Plus, all our pre-owned vehicles are quality assured by AutoCheck, so you get peace of mind with your purchase. You deserve the best, and that's what we offer at award-winning Dig Company's Capital Ford Mazda Hyundai, just 29 miles south of Reno.
And we're back with Shelly Aldean. I guess, you have this budget thing going on, and then, that came right on the heels or right in the middle of this whole downtown redevelopment thing, which has also sparked a lot of interest in citizens out there. And where is that sitting right now?
Well, the ball is kind of in Steve Neighbors' court. Steve is trying to locate a developer who would be interested in taking on this project. The good thing is, Kirk, we now have a Citizens Advisory Committee that is meeting with the project proponents and members of city staff to talk about the various elements of the proposal, because we want to make sure that as many people in town are comfortable as possible with what's being proposed. My position has always been, we don't have a lot to offer, as you know, in terms of taxing authority. We do have an additional eighth of a cent for capital improvement projects, and then we have the tax increment that's actually generated by the project to help fund it.
Now, is there any pressure right now with that eighth of a cent to maybe even bring that into helping the city with its budget problems right now? Is that
well, the problem is the use is restricted to capital improvement projects. So I mean, we really can't. I mean, that's earmarked for capital improvement work. So. But my biggest concern is, you've seen the various iterations of the proposal, and I want to make absolutely certain that all of the people involved in this project understand that we are committing, we will give them whatever revenue, potentially, whatever revenue is generated by that additional sales tax, but we are not going to guarantee any amount, and so if they want to use that to collateralize a loan, the bank is going to have to understand that we are not a guarantor because we can't predict what it's going to produce in terms of sales tax revenues.
Well, I mean, look what happened to sales tax revenues, all up and down. So, now, I was at the Citizens Advisory Committee, and there was a statement made by the consultant to the project, Mark Lewis, talking about a critical part of this project is getting 3 state agencies to relocate to this development area. And with the state's budget problems, that seems like a real stretch to make that go. I mean, that seems very concerning.
Well,
I don't know about
I spoke with a state official just yesterday, as a matter of fact, on an unrelated matter, and this topic came up. And right now, their leases are pretty darn competitive. And of course, you're right. They have some severe budget shortages, and so they have to be as penurious as we do in terms of the way we spend what little money we have. And so it just depends on how deep the developers' pockets are and what they're willing to accept. Maybe initially a real competitive rent with subsequent increases, when the economy recovers and the state can afford to pay more. They will be theoretically moving into Class A office space, and with. So
I expect they'd have to pay a little bit more for that somewhere down the line.
At some point. So anyway, we'll see. It's still evolving. It's very much a project in progress, and I'm hopeful that we can, at the end of the day, we can come up with something that's reasonable, that protects the city financially, that reinvigorates that part of our city, that enables us to move into the 21st century in terms of having a library that can offer its citizens more than our current library offers. So, but if the project doesn't move forward, we'll just have to kind of regroup and decide how we can cooperate with the Nugget Foundation, the May and Hop Adams Foundation, to perhaps spend that money differently. Okay,
because they've said that they wanted to, if this doesn't go forward, they're going to develop something on their own anyway.
Well, and the mandate is, as I understand it, is to spend that money to help children. And, my position has always been, if we can't move forward with this more complex project, maybe what they can do is donate some land to the city for the new library. We would find a way of financing the capital improvement, and then they would create an endowment to help with operating expenses.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you for coming on and talking with us, and thank you for tuning in.